At 3:47 a.m. on September 6, 2008, Lehman Brothers executives frantically deleted terabytes of trading data from their servers. The same weekend, Google's co-founders were meeting with Treasury officials in a closed-door session that remains classified. While the world watched banks collapse, the real revolution was happening in server farms across Silicon Valley. The men who would reshape global finance weren't wearing ties. They were wearing hoodies. And they weren't trading mortgages. They were trading something far more valuable: the ability to predict human behavior. This is another video where money, power, and history collide. And nothing is ever as simple as it looks. The story we tell ourselves is simple. Tech entrepreneurs built platforms. People shared data. Companies got rich. Everyone benefited from free services. The digital economy democratized information and opportunity. The big data revolution appeared to be about connection. Facebook promised to bring the world closer together. Google organized the world's information. Amazon made everything available to everyone. The narrative was optimistic, egalitarian, and profitable. Silicon Valley sold itself as different from Wall Street. Tech leaders wore casual clothes and spoke about changing the world. They built platforms, not banks. They connected people, not money. The distinction seemed meaningful. The surface story made sense. Users got free services. Companies sold advertising. Everyone won. The real mechanism was different. The big data billionaires didn't just collect information. They weaponized prediction. Every click, search, and scroll became a data point in models that could forecast behavior with unprecedented accuracy. The platforms weren't selling advertising space. They were selling behavioral futures. Shoshana Zuboff called it surveillance capitalism. The comparison to financial derivatives was precise. Just as Wall Street bundled mortgages into complex securities, tech companies bundled human behavior into predictive products. The raw material wasn't housing debt. It was human attention, emotion, and choice. The extraction process worked like a perfectly designed machine. Free services acted as the bait. Users provided personal data in exchange for convenience. Companies harvested this information to build psychological profiles. The profiles enabled micro-targeting that could influence purchasing decisions, political opinions, and life choices. The most sophisticated practitioners understood something the old financial elite missed. Money follows attention. Control attention, and you control money. The tech giants built the most advanced attention harvesting systems in human history. Google's search algorithm didn't just find information. It shaped what people considered important. Facebook's news feed didn't just show content. It influenced how people understood reality. Amazon's recommendations didn't just suggest products. They created desires people didn't know they had. The behavioral modification was subtle but systematic. Variable reward schedules kept users engaged. Social validation triggered dopamine responses. Fear of missing out drove compulsive checking. The platforms became digital casinos designed to maximize engagement time. The financial returns were staggering. Google's market capitalization reached $1.7 trillion. Facebook, despite multiple scandals, maintained a valuation exceeding most national economies. Amazon became larger than the entire retail sector it was supposedly disrupting. The concentration of wealth made the Gilded Age look egalitarian. Jeff Bezos accumulated $200 billion, while Amazon warehouse workers qualified for food stamps. Mark Zuckerberg's net worth exceeded the GDP of most countries, while Facebook paid minimal taxes in jurisdictions where it generated billions in revenue. The political influence followed financial power. Tech executives became regular visitors to the White House under every administration. Their companies shaped election outcomes through algorithmic content curation. The platforms that promised to democratize information became the primary vectors for disinformation. The system's true architecture became visible during crises. The 2016 election revealed how foreign actors could purchase American political influence through Facebook ads. The 2020 pandemic showed how Amazon could gain market share while small businesses collapsed. The January 6th Capitol riot demonstrated how social media algorithms could amplify political extremism. The parallels to traditional financial bubbles were striking. Excessive leverage, regulatory capture, and systemic risk all characterized the big data economy. The tech giants had become too big to fail. Their platforms were essential infrastructure. Their collapse would devastate the global economy. The reckoning arrived in stages. The Cambridge Analytica scandal exposed Facebook's data practices. Antitrust investigations targeted Google's search monopoly. Amazon faced scrutiny for anti-competitive behavior. Apple confronted privacy violations. The response was predictable. The companies hired armies of lobbyists. They funded think tanks that produced favorable research. They positioned themselves as champions of innovation against government overreach. The strategy that financial institutions used to avoid regulation after 2008 was recycled for the digital age. The regulatory efforts faced the same obstacles that limited financial reform. The systems were too complex for most politicians to understand. The economic benefits were real and visible. The costs were diffuse and long-term. The companies were too powerful to challenge directly. The international dimension complicated domestic reform. China's tech giants operated under different rules. European regulators pursued privacy protection. American companies argued that excessive regulation would harm national competitiveness. The race to the bottom that characterized international banking was replicated in digital markets. The names have changed. The behavior hasn't. Today's surveillance capitalists use the same playbook that financial elites perfected over centuries. They privatize profits while socializing costs. They capture regulators through revolving door employment. They claim their activities benefit society while extracting maximum value for shareholders. The modern parallels extend beyond business models. The big data economy exhibits the same systemic risks that triggered the 2008 financial crisis. Excessive concentration, moral hazard, and regulatory arbitrage characterize both systems. The companies that promised to disrupt traditional power structures have become more powerful than the institutions they replaced. The psychological dimension is more insidious than purely financial exploitation. The tech giants don't just extract economic value. They shape human consciousness. The algorithms that determine what people see influence how they think. The platforms that facilitate social connection also enable manipulation and control. The global implications are staggering. Democratic institutions depend on informed citizen participation. Market economies require genuine choice. Both are undermined when a handful of companies control information flows and behavioral prediction systems. The people who control the world's data don't need to break the rules. They just need to write them. The big data billionaires haven't just redefined money. They've redefined power itself. In an age where information is currency, those who control information become the new central bankers of human attention. History doesn't repeat. It just upgrades its extraction methods.